What is going on, everyone? That was me attempting to sing. I don't do it often, so you should feel pretty lucky that I am doing it for you today. Hope your day's going good. Hope your week's going good. We have an amazing episode for you today, but before we get into that, I gotta give you my world famous announcements. Wherever you're listening to my voice right now, no matter how painful that might be, hit subscribe. Whether you're listening to this on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're hearing my voice, hit subscribe. That way, every time we come out with a new episode of Engaged Podcast, it will be there on your phone waiting for you to listen to it every Thursday. It makes it easy for yourself. Also, we are on the tail end of our YouTube promotion campaign. Where if you haven't subscribed yet, when you hit subscribe to our YouTube channel, which the link for that's just down in the show notes, you'll be directed to our YouTube page. And when you hit subscribe there, your name gets put into a random hat. And at the end of the summer, so the end of this month in August, we're going to pull a random name out of that hat. And if your name is picked and you live in the local area, me and Pastor Anthony will have you as a guest on this very show. That's right. You'll get to share your story. You'll get to tell people who you are, and you will be listened to by the thousands of people that listen to this podcast every single week. Also, if you don't live in the local area and you can't be on the show, me and Pastor Anthony will send you one of his favorite books completely for free with our name signed on the inside cover. So it is a win-win for you either way. There's nothing to lose, only something to gain by you hitting that subscribe button. Also, again, if you haven't come out yet, you gotta come check out our outside services here at Faith Presbyterian Church, 11 a.m. outside in the back parking lot. They are so much fun, and I can't, as much as I want to go back to normal, go into the church building, I don't want these outside services to end because they're just so much fun. And if you're someone who you haven't been to church in a long time, you're not sure about getting back into the old the tradition of going every single Sunday, this is a perfect way to get back into it because it's not your typical church. It's not your you sit in the pew, listen to hymns. It's you're outside under the nice hot sun, listening to God's word being read and then expounded upon. Great community, fantastic way to get back into going to church. So that's 11 a.m. every single Sunday here at Faith Presbyterian Church. All right, our guest today was so much fun to talk to. We could have done another hour. Easily, we could have done another hour, but he's a very busy guy, so we wanted to make sure we were very mindful of time. His business is in the eyeglass, business world. And one of the things that I said to him before we got started with this podcast is that when most people think of ministry, they always think of it as work within a church, right? But a lot of times what ministry is you using your gifts, your talents, and just using it to glorify God. And that's exactly what our guest did with his particular company. His name is Jim Schneider of Eyes of Faith. Let me tell you something. You're going to learn a lot today. We learned a lot today. Such a great guy, such an amazing story, and you're in for an amazing episode. So sit back, relax, open your mind, and engage with us as we listen to our friend Jim Schneider of Eyes of Faith.
Welcome back to Engaged Podcast. This is where we bring in folks in the community that are leaders and influencers. This is our Leader2Leader series. Today we have the incredible privilege of having James Schneider, Eyes of Faith Optical, here with us. Jim, we're going to call you Jim through the rest of the show.
Sounds good.
How are you today?
We're doing amazing. What a beautiful day. I'm happy to be here. It's just super cool. Thank you so much.
We're honored to have you.
Yeah.
So, Seth,
Yeah.
what's new?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. Just living, I guess. I don't know.
Living the dream.
You always put me on the spot. I never know what to say. So I'm just gonna keep it simple. Good.
All right, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's been a good day so far. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Good day, productive, beautiful day outside, and you're sitting here and engaged.
And I just want to know what did we do before Zoom? Because it's like, did we actually? Because I've had a number of Zoom calls already this morning, and I'm like, did we just like call you before that?
It's craziness, huh? That's what I used to ask myself. What did we do before text?
Yeah.
It's like, man, did we used to call each other all the time to ask this one question?
Right.
So now we have to deal with when someone texts you and then, they call you right away and then you're like, I didn't want to talk to you to begin with. So now you're in the dilemma of watching their name flash on your screen and you're like, I'm not getting the phone.
Right.
Not that I ever do that.
Yeah. Okay.
I just do that to Seth.
Yeah.
Everyone else is safe, but Seth is the only one I do that to.
It's okay. No hard feelings.
So, Jim,
Yes.
You and I we've met, about 4 years ago?
It's been a while, yeah, but I think about 4 years ago.
We were at the Panera, I remember.
Yeah.
So, for those who are not familiar with what you do and your organization, why don't you go ahead and share about the Eyes of Faith organization, the company you run?
Well, we're a very unique company. We are actually an eyewear company. We sell mainly to eye doctors all across the country that are with our brand. We say it's purpose, passion, style. It's been our tagline since we started the company in 2009. And the purpose was to give the gift of sight, spread the love of Christ through the gift of sight. The passion piece is showing the love of Christ in the optical marketplace. And the style is what really separates us out in terms of my wife is our designer. She's an optician by trade, so she designs glasses. Everything's custom designed with an optician in mind. It's like what best fit, color, shape. And we actually, as a small company, we utilize the world's leading trend forecaster for fashion. And so we stay really up to date on what's happening 2 years from now, because there's a very long design lead time from the time a prototype is done until it's on a shelf ready to be shipped is a 18-month lead time. So when you're dealing with custom designs like that, so it's that's a really cool thing with Amy. She, over these last 11 years, has really fine-tuned that whole design process, and she does an amazing job. So, again, we sell to eye doctors all across the country. We're based in downtown Sharon, and during this whole COVID thing, we actually opened up a new optical boutique in the Armory building behind Lulu Beans. And it turned out really cool, beautiful. It's there for Amy's design studio and for private styling sessions. People can go right to our website and schedule a styling session with the designer herself to get a pair of Eyes of Faith frames.
And remind us of the website.
It's eofoptical.com, eyesoffaithoptical.com, but it's EOF Optical. Or you can just Google us, it pops right up.
And we can put that in the comments, right, when this is on, when we post it on Facebook. Yeah. So talk to us about you mentioned trend forecaster.
Yeah.
Who sets the trend? Is it like we look at Hollywood and look at what George Clooney is wearing and Tom Cruise is wearing, and that becomes the trend? Or are they setting the trend, or are they kind of tapped into what's happening too? And how does that work?
Fashion companies will look to use those folks as celebrities to help set the trend. But these fashion companies already have in mind what they want the trend to be. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's like 2 years down the line, we look at shapes, we look at color, and there's a lot of things that happen in the eyewear business, and so things change a lot, but some things stay the same. There's basically 8 shapes that you work with in eyewear. You can make them a little bigger, you can make them a little smaller, you can do a little different things. What Amy loves to do is take color into it. She has thousands of color samples in our design studio, and that's where she really shines, is terms of color selection. But the trend forecasting, they forecast out what the color trends are going to be in different seasons of the year. So we stay real close attention to, our yellows are going to be hot for the spring, or different variations. There's so many things that go into designing a frame. It's kind of mind-boggling, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah. We're learning a lot right now.
Yeah.
I never would have known, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even like with even texture-wise too. Like we have some of our frames, they're all acetate or kind of a plastic frame, but we'll add like a wood grain texture to it to give it a little different feel, or something along those lines too.
So, I was joking when I said people like Tom Cruise and George Clooney, semi-joking, and you mentioned that they use people like that to sort of get that new style out there. Right. Who are the people, like who are the Hollywood people or the musicians that are without a doubt setting the trend? So when so-and-so walks out with, whether it's a new, the shirts or the glasses, who are the people that are the people to use for setting the trends?
Well, interestingly, we have one of those celebrities that kind of help us out, and she's gotten a radio host, Delilah. We have a pretty amazing collaboration with her, and we've had her feature wearing our frames on a number of these magazines that showcase what celebrities are wearing. So I mean, it really. It's kind of like, I know what I'm saying, it's kind of like when I look at what celebrities are doing and what they're wearing, they'll just, like, these people in the optical industry will just take a snapshot of somebody wearing a frame, and they don't must be being paid to wear for that frame. They're, hey, look what he's wearing, or what Tom Cruise is wearing for obviously the Aviator with the new Top Gun movie coming out.
Yeah, right.
All that
You're
kind
going
of
to
stuff.
see all the guys busting out the Aviators.
Yeah. So, but it's some people are paid, but most people are just like, hey, I'm just going to wear something different and unique, and it could be something very basic and simple that people just love. Mm-hmm. So
that's fascinating. Yeah. So you have a pretty neat vision statement. You said it was purpose, passion, and style.
Yes.
Tell us, how did that come to be?
Well, it really starts down to how the company started and what the vision of the company was when we laid out this company back in 2008, 2009. We kind of talked about this earlier, but it was middle of a financial crisis that we were dealing with. But the company started with, it was born out of prayer. Eyes of faith, we're prayerful people, and I had just been praying the same thing over and over again. God, how are you going to use me? And what is going to be my purpose for moving forward in my career and that type of thing? And again, it wasn't a shout. It wasn't a shout from heaven, but during a early morning Sunday prayer, the thought of an eyewear company came to me. And I went to my wife and I woke her up from a very deep sleep, and I said, Amy, I have this amazing idea to start an eyewear company that honors God. She's like, you're crazy. You need to go back to bed right now. Okay. But after the cobwebs had cleared and we kind of talked about this, she's like, well, Jim, my prayer has been, which I did not know what she was praying for. And it's like, it was personal for her and at that time. And she just said, how are you going to use me? All I know how to do is fit people for glasses and love them unconditionally. So we've truly felt we came together on something. I was doing very well in the insurance business, had a great job, great income, even during a financial crisis. But we saw something there. And the next day we booked a trip for one of the largest optical events in the country called Vision Expo West in Las Vegas. I mean, this trip literally was Sunday, the thought came to me. Wednesday, we're arriving in Las Vegas. So we booked a trip on Monday, and Wednesday we arrived. And we just saw nothing, the 5,000 brands of eyewear that are out there in the world, nothing represented faith. So Eyes of Faith was born at that time. With purpose, passion, style as, that kind of evolved into what our tagline would be.
So there's something that, you had the dream to do this. You and your wife came together. Then in 3 days, you were out in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
How important is that when you look back into your story that you acted on it? Because the reason why I ask that is because I believe that there's something important about putting things in motion, right? And so a lot of people have these ideas, and the problem is they just have ideas, and they've had ideas for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But I see the movers and the shakers, those that are leading,
right,
that they're courageous enough to act on something, even if it fails, or even if it looks silly to other people.
Right.
And in 3 days, you're out there in Vegas, right?
We had this enormous passion to do this, and that was just overwhelming. And what it comes down to, and I've shared this story before, when you're somebody who's in the insurance business, your job is to transfer your risk to the insurance company. It's a simple definition of insurance. I'm transferring my risk of loss to the insurance company. I'm going to pay a premium. I'm going to do that. And when I look back on it, it was, for me, in making the decision to leave my job and do everything, the greatest risk for me was not taking the risk. Is what it came down to.
Man, is there a way that you can Google something for us as we're talking?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's this great quote, and I'm going to blab through it, and you just make sure you find who said it. And it says something, and you may be familiar. Somebody said that there came a time for the bud where it was more risky to stay. You might just, if you just put that in there, it'll come up. Something on the lines of it was more risky for the bud to remain withdrawn, right, than to fully bloom.
And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to bloom.
And that's what you're saying.
Exactly.
You're loving that, right?
Yeah, I'm loving that, right? I've never heard that before.
There you go. You're like, that's why I came here today.
Yeah, exactly.
Interview over. I'm out.
I'm done.
But right, isn't that true?
What it really
because
came
there's
down
more
to.
risk. You had the dream. You knew what you had to do. It became more risky for you to sit on that.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be 20 years from now, or at that point in time in 2009, saying, "Gosh, what if?
Right.
What if we would have done that?" So that was the big thing for me, and so
I can associate with that. I had a moment like that. Okay, where I had just finished my my MDiv, the Masters of Divinity, and on my way to school, I would always see a billboard for a Masters in Organizational Leadership, and it always stood out to me, and it just became more and more important or apparent, I should say, that is something I need to pursue. And one of the big reasons is I saw the lack of that kind of training in my Masters, in the Masters of Divinity. And so I had one of those moments where I said, I know this is what the right thing to do. And I just signed up and I did it. In other words, I went and, paid and put the application in, and I just did it. I just knew that if I'd sit around and wait, that there would be people that would talk me out of it.
Right.
And so I just said, I'm going to do this. And your story and any of these types of stories reminds me, and this is another incredible story, and this is a true story. And again, I apologize because I don't remember the guy's name or the details, but there was this high jumper. You're going to love this.
Okay.
Who either he set the world record. This is at one point. I'm sure it's been destroyed by now. But he set the world record. And in the interview after, you ready for this?
What?
They asked him how he did it. You know what he said? I threw my heart over the top and my body followed.
Oh,
That's beautiful.
Is that awesome?
That's good.
Right?
Yeah,
I
that's
threw my heart over the top
And my
body
followed.
followed.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And I don't recommend doing that all day, every day.
Right.
But there's a time where you got to act, and you did it.
Yeah, that's how. I mean, that's and I give my wife a lot of credit too, because she married an insurance agent. Somebody's going to get stability and this, and okay. But she was all in too. All in.
And how important was that to do that in unison, that you were a team?
It was critical. I mean, 'cause we knew nothing about the eyewear optical industry, basically, in terms of how to even start. And at least she had some opticianry training, but it was critical that we were both in this together, because it's like we're, if we fail, we're going down together. Okay.
Yeah.
But if we don't, we're gonna strive together. But I'm telling you, man, it was a roller coaster. It was, at times we were like, we're gonna make this. Starting a new business is very difficult. I'm glad I didn't know what I didn't know. I probably wouldn't have done what I did. I mean, so those are the kind of things you're like, look back and you're like, how much actually work it took, and how much, literally, no pun intended, blind faith it took to do this and get it done. And a lot of mistakes were made. I mean, I look back on, I learned, at least everyone says you learn more from your mistakes than your successes.
Right.
So, but here we are, 11 years later.
And we're sitting here now. So why don't you, we heard a little bit about you and your background. Where were you from originally? Did you say that?
I grew up near Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
Marysville, to be exact, a town right outside of Columbus, home of the Honda plants. And so that's where we got our thing. But I've lived, I went to Ohio Northern University, and right from there, I worked for the Cincinnati Financial Corporation, which is Cincinnati Insurance, and then got promoted out here as a field manager, and I lived in Poland, Ohio. And then Gilbert's recruited me in after I worked with them in that field manager capacity, and then moved. So we moved to Sharon. So I've actually been in the Mahoning Shenango valleys since 1995, actually. Yeah.
What's one thing that makes the Shenango Valley unique in your perspective?
That's a really good question. I think, it's a tight-knit group, and there's no doubt about it. It's a very nice place to live, I've learned, and the diversity here. Growing up in Central Ohio, seemed like there wasn't a lot of diversity. I didn't even know what wedding soup was.
Oh man!
I mean, that's or cookie tables or stuff like that.
Man.
Like what?
I didn't either.
And my wife's from Newcastle, and
really?
Yeah,
that's where I'm from.
Okay, yeah. So she went to Shenango, and that's where she's from, and we spent a lot of time there. Her parents are still there, but yeah, that's one of the things. Is like family seems really tight knit here, and again, I like the ethnicity of everybody. I love, because I really didn't get that in Central Ohio.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it here.
Yeah.
We got the best in those little restaurants and mom and pop shops.
Right.
It's just amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, because when I moved to Newcastle in 2009, now mind you, I'd lived in places, predominantly there were bigger cities like St. Louis, Lawton, Oklahoma, Lancaster, PA. Okay, so the three things I was shocked the most about just this area, it's not even Newcastle, is one, even though like Newcastle has a population of over 20,000 people, it runs like it's a town that has like 300 people in it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was a new kid and everyone in town knew I was the new kid. Like, because my name, I always joke with Anthony that because I'm not Italian and my name doesn't sound Italian, like when I told people my name's Seth Walters, they were like, all right, you're not from here. No. And the second thing was the amount of the fact that like Newcastle is the first place I've ever lived where when people give directions, they give directions by restaurants, not by street names. They're like,
go straight to Mary's,
right?
Turn left at.
It's funny. I guess I've been indoctrinated so long. It's like, hey Jim, where are you located? Well, we're behind Lulu Beans.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's funny because I tell people where I live. That's funny you say that. I give 2 restaurants. I'm not going to say it on air.
Yeah.
But that's something that I do. Yeah. Everything's about the food.
Yeah. And the third thing, So the third thing just about the area in general is that they're very passionate about their Steelers. Like, very passionate. And the reason why that shocked me is because in my head, I'm thinking, this is nowhere near Pittsburgh. You're going to get a mixture of, like, Browns fans,
right.
Steelers fans, Eagles fans. Nope. All
No,
Steelers.
broski, this is Steeler Nation.
They will stab you
Yeah.
if you're not a Steelers
Yeah.
fan.
I converted.
You know this.
I converted to becoming a Steelers fan because when I moved up here, the Cleveland Browns left to Baltimore, I'm like, I am teamless, and the Bengals were terrible. So I converted over, but I secretly root for the Browns.
Yeah.
I want them to do well, but I still root for the Steelers when they're playing each other. But I want to see the Browns at least get there.
Now everyone knows your secret.
Yeah.
I always say I have two favorite teams. One is the Rams, both St. Louis Rams and the LA Rams. Either way, it's the Rams. And then the second team is anyone who can beat the Patriots.
Why do you have a Raiders tattoo in your back then?
Just to shake things up.
Okay.
It's a good conversation starter.
Yeah.
So let's veer off a little
Okay,
bit here.
sure.
What do you do for fun? What does Jim do for fun? How do you unplug?
Oh gosh, I'm learning about that again. I used to play a lot of golf. I used to, when in the insurance business, I played a lot of golf. I live, on a golf course, but I walk it. I don't play golf much anymore. But we go camping. We have a little camping trailer we got a few years ago where we enjoy that.
Now, time out. Are we talking the camp, like
It's
the
more.
tent?
It's
or
more.
a little more elaborate.
It's glamping.
Okay.
It's glamping. It's
Okay.
got everything you need to enjoy the scenery. But it's great. But we prior to COVID, my wife and I are Disney addicts. We go to Orlando a lot, and we go to Disney quite often, and so we haven't been there. We actually were there the first week of March when things were going crazy. Disney closed down like 5 days later.
I was there at the end of February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do. That's kind of been our little getaway from everything. Because we feel like we live our job, but we love it. It's not really a job; it's a vocation. But it's like we're constantly in it, and for us, Disney was always just like this little escape for us. We would go there and not really think about anything else, and just enjoy our time together as husband and wife. I think that's so important when you work with your spouse, that you got to give yourselves a little bit of separation, and you got to have a hobby together that you enjoy to do together. And so that's kind of what we do. Yeah.
I think that's a great thing. So, how many years have you've been going to Disney for? What, every year for?
Ever since I was, that's 11 years. We go there. We actually launched our brand there. That's a whole other story if you want to get into that. That was a pretty amazing story.
Sure, share it.
Okay. Because this is kind of why we're kind of Disney freaks. But so I went there for my 40th birthday. All right. And I said, I'm never going back. Because I was like, I did the Disney thing. We're good. And so this was 2009. All right. So I resigned from my job, but didn't fully resign for another 3 months. I wanted to give the company plenty of time to find somebody and transition and all that kind of thing. So, but I knew my cutoff date was I'm done on September 1st, 2009. And I was flipping through a magazine, and we love Christian music, and we started going to a lot of Christian concerts, and I saw that Disney had an event called Night of Joy the second week in September. And I said jokingly to Amy, hey, I don't have a job at that time, and we're starting Eyes of Faith officially September 1st. We should just launch our brand there. I said it jokingly, and she's like, and then she kind of laughed it off too. Next morning, I play golf with a gentleman, and then I get, during that golf match, I got a message saying from a guy who was an insurance consultant for us from Kansas City, Missouri. I took him to the airport, and I was talking about the Eyes of Faith story that we're doing, and this was in 2009. He calls me. He said, Jim, you need to call me back as soon as you can. And I call him back, and I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm out of the insurance business. And he's like, Jim, I got a guy here you need to talk to. Puts me on the phone with him. Said, hey, Jim, my name's Buddy Smith. Gary told me about your Eyes of Faith project. Have you ever heard of Disney's Night of Joy?
You gotta be kidding me.
And I said, yeah, yesterday. He's like, I'm the sponsor coordinator. We want you. I'm like, what?
Yeah, like this is a joke.
Seriously, seriously, are you seriously saying you're the sponsor coordinator? And this is the first year that Disney even allowed sponsors for the event. Okay. So I'm like, okay, I'm interested because this is really, really weird. And he told me how much it was going to cost. So I basically threw up, but I got back on the phone and said, okay, let's talk. 2 weeks later, we're flying down to meet with Disney's executives to become the first ever sponsor of a stage at Disney's Night of Joy. Okay. Hollywood Studios. I don't know if you've ever been to Hollywood Studios, but it's the Beauty and the Beast stage. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. So Amy and I have a little thing when we just got to stop, drop, and pray sometimes. They put us up at the beach club, all fancy, and we're like, Amy, we got to pray about this because we're about to use a lot of God's resources here on launching a brand without any product. Okay, we just have a brand so far. And so we got on our knees, we prayed, we asked for God's leading and guidance on it. And we're like, we got up, I said, okay, let's go to the pool. We walked out, and I kid you not, there was a skywriter writing Trust Jesus in the sky. I kid you not. That's what I'm like, I think we got our signal.
Yeah. Pretty
clear. So we went to the meeting. We're doing it. Let's rock it out here. And we ended up meeting some amazing people during that whole process that are still great friends of ours. I can tell you the Delilah collaboration that happened last year would not have happened if we didn't launch our brand in Disney World. We've met so many people. We've fit great Christian artists with our glasses, and those relationships continue. And it was because we said yes to that event.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were not getting through this interview without sharing that story. That is fantastic. Right?
Well, it was like, well, we're Disney addicts, when you spend that much time and you launch your brand there, you've got to. Yeah. Unfortunately, they don't do the event anymore.
Oh, they don't.
They don't. They slowly moved it out, and but we had a good run. It was like 30 some years they were doing that.
Wow. Yeah. I know Seth has a question or two here, but I want to ask a theological question only because I heard you mention it. Yeah. Give me your understanding. You mentioned God's resources. Mm-hmm. What is your view? How's the outlook theologically there of that? And I'm asking because I'm thinking more of the audience. Right. In a wider audience as they listen to this, because that's not something you hear a lot of, especially outside of the church.
Sure.
So, share that understanding so folks kind of know where you're coming from.
Well, we feel God is our CEO, and it's His resources that we're utilizing, whether it be financial, time, energy, whatever it is. It's all a gift from Him. And that's what we get really upset when we make mistakes or do something that we feel is outside of what He probably wanted for us at that time. And so that's kind of the way we view it. It's like, we pray every morning. It's like, what's your will for us today, and what we're going to do, and how we're going to spend money, how we're going to spend our time, and Amy and I are committed to, and again, resources are a number of things. It's like, but time is your most precious resource that we have. And that's like what our next 12-month commitment is time management. It's where we delve deep in what's called a full focus planner. So we just got to make sure that we're using our time as best as we can, and using those financial resources as best as we can.
You mentioned the Full Focus Planner. That's by Michael Hyatt.
Yes.
Correct? Give us the quick and skinny on that again, if somebody's not familiar.
Yeah, well, it's actually I'm getting fully trained on it in an hour or two.
Okay.
Okay, but it's something we just started, and it really it talks about not just annual goal setting but what's your daily goal? Like, what's your 3 big things you want to accomplish today? Okay, so you start setting those goals. Like my big 3 today. This was one of them. All right,
We're on his radar.
I literally wrote down big 3 podcast with Anthony, and you try to accomplish. You got to make sure you try to accomplish those big 3 in that day, or sometimes you try to accomplish by noon, and you got the rest of the day. But it's really intense in terms of really delving in to what every half hour looks like in your day.
And that's every day you have to do that.
Yeah. So I know exactly what my plan's going to be, because what happens when you're running a company and you get pulled in a lot of different ways, and you get emailed to death, you've got to start structuring things a little bit and delegating and doing those types of things. So that's why we're our biggest resource right now is time. And we have to make sure we're utilizing our time so efficiently at this stage. Because we're a small company, so we wear a lot of hats. So we just got to try to figure out how to do that. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's excellent. And so if you're out there listening and you kind of are in business, or you're struggling with time management, check out Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner. It could bring you a lot of freedom in the long run.
Yes, absolutely.
Very cool. So one of the things that was I'm always fascinated by is how other people's past experiences, whether it be in a job or organization or just whatever, how that plays into what they're currently doing now. So you said you worked in insurance, correct? So I'm curious. I think of like Moses. Before Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, God had him practice by leading sheep. Okay? How do you think, where you are now, how do you think God prepared you through working through insurance to get you to do what you're doing now?
That's a great question. I think, when I look back at my insurance career, something that was, I don't think I was very good at, was all the detail aspects of things. Okay. Yeah. And I was supposed to be very detailed, but I was really good at building relationships. And I kind of let other people work on the details. And I think as an insurance underwriter, and then a risk manager, you've got to you've got to be trained on details. And that has, again, it was out of my comfort zone. So it wasn't like, that's not kind of my character. It's like, I'm not a really detailed person. Yeah. However, the insurance business made me a detailed person in a lot of capacity. And now it's like, as I go through, with Eyes of Faith Optical, you've got to be detailed. You got to again get structured and that type of thing, and not just be impetuous in every decision. So that's helped me. But I think, when I look back in the insurance business, it taught me how to build relationships. I mean, I had to go and sell myself to these corporate accounts. Why to do business with me and trust me with your risk transfer and pay me a lot of premium to do that. So when I look back on that, I think that's really part of is every relationship is based on trust. If you lose trust, you lose everything. So, and that's kind of how we operate with our optical partners. It's like they trust us. We're going to operate with integrity. We're going to operate with Christian values that we feel, and we always kind of say, do what's right, even if they don't know what's going on. Just do what's right. and that's how we operated through my entire career. But I wasn't always a Christian though too. But that's kind of what separates us out. Yeah.
Very cool. So if someone came to you and they said, I have a similar calling, maybe not in the exact field, but if someone wanted to do what you're doing, they have this calling, they feel that God is telling them that they need to do, and it's very risky. And they come to you for advice and they're saying, what do I do? I want to ask two questions. The first question is how do you know if something is of God or of just your own ambition? So,
okay. Great question. And you really don't know. I mean, for sure. But it's like, you kind of talked about the whole passion piece, what's welling up inside you.
Yeah.
But I took that passion, but then I started investigating it. And the more that we investigated it, the more confirmation we got that we were on the right path. So, I mean, it's kind of part of my faith story was investigating the claims of Christ.
Okay.
Is how I became a Christian.
Okay.
So it's like I did the same thing with Eyes of Faith. Is let's investigate this, but it all comes down. You can investigate all you want, and it all comes down to that passion and is the greatest risk not taking it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the second question is you act upon it. What advice would you give them on how to keep that fire going and not let mistakes or barriers stop them?
Well, I think with any entrepreneur, if you go, marketing 101, the 4 P's of marketing: product, place, price, and promotion.
Okay.
And I think the 4 P's of entrepreneurship are prayer, perseverance, planning, and what's my fourth one? I'm rolling blank. I have a
prayer. Prayer, perseverance,
plan, and passion. And passion. Oh my gosh, the main one. Those are the 4 elements that I kind of look at in terms of entrepreneurship. First of all, do you have that passion piece? Okay. And do you have a plan? All right. What's your plan? What's your business plan? What are you going to do? Have you investigated it? And the perseverance, I think, is so critical because, there's the idea of starting a company and getting it to where it's financially stable and it can and not go out of business is very difficult. I mean, how many businesses go out of business after the first 3 years, 5 years?
Right.
The percentage is very high. So the perseverance is making sure you have the right backing, the financial backing, to make sure that you can get through hard times, because they're going to be hard times, no matter what business you're in.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I feel. It's like if somebody is an entrepreneur and they want to get involved in this, those are the kind of things I would have them look at.
I like that, the 4 P's.
Yeah.
We can put some of that in the comments so people when they look at this could can see those 4 P's. Before we wrap things up here, so is there anything that you would like to share with the audience that perhaps we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Nothing that comes to mind. We've talked about a lot. I mean, I just think everybody could check out our website. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and we'd love for those folks to come and check out our Optical Boutique. It's very different. It's not open to the public per se, but you schedule an appointment with us, and we had this all planned out before COVID. So it was like, this was our intent before the whole social distancing and everything. It was going to be because it's going to be a job for Amy she had a lot of requests from family and friends to get fitted for frame and lenses, and we needed kind of a special place for that, and a new place for her design studio, and so it's kind of worked out. She only maybe takes 1 or 2 appointments a day in that capacity. So check that out. You can schedule it right online. If you happen to be an eye care professional out there, you can schedule a consult with me right from our website. We have some great videos of seeing the operation right there on our site too. So a lot of different options.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Last question.
Yes.
So I want you to think about for a second this. You're able to go back in time and you meet Jim at, let's say, 15 years old-ish.
Okay.
What advice do you give Jim?
The 15-year-old Jim, what I advise to him would be to, I don't want to sound too churchy, but Jim at 15 years old did not know Christ at all, and church was looked at as an obligatory thing, and it would be try to encourage him to get involved, investigate your faith, and just engage that way. Because that's when I look back, I mean, it was all about Jim for a long time, from age 15 to 33. So yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay.
Yep.
That seems like a pretty good place to end our show. One of the things you're going to see when we post this is for the audience, Jim walked in here and brought a spectacular pair of sunglasses. So in the picture, you're going to see me standing with this super cool pair of sunglasses. And what we're doing is we're setting trends. So this is the trend forecaster, and that's why he picked this pastor to set the trends. So
and the name of the frame is Trust.
There you go. So we're setting the trends today here at Faith Presbyterian Church. Listen, this has been fantastic. Jim, thank you for your time. I know you're a busy guy. We've learned a lot. I know that the audience is going to be blessed by this. This is Anthony Claditis here at Faith Presbyterian Church, signing off another Engaged podcast and a Leader for Leader, a show, and we look forward to connecting again next week. Be blessed.